Well, hi everyone. I'm John Ritlin, back with a multi-movie review of 4 horror movies that I saw on Netflix recently. Siren, which was shit. The Witch Files, which was shit. Head Count, which was okay. And also The Golem, which again was okay. Now, none of these movies are particularly good, I will say that right off the bat, but at least the last two had a couple good qualities that I'll get into. But really, these are the definition of shovelware, just thrown out there for a quick buck, and none of these movies are particularly worth your time. Also, I'm going to get into spoilers here because that's what I do with these multi-movie reviews. I give them to bite-sized chunks and just spoil everything. Also, there's not a lot of material for these movies, so don't be surprised if this review is short. 25 minutes later. I kid. So let's start off with Siren. So, you got some guys that are going out on a bachelor party and they get invited to this like house out in the middle of nowhere with this grand party, strippers and drugs and all the booze they could possibly want, and weird guards, and this one girl, this mysterious girl named Lilith that sings like a siren and everything, hence why the movie's called Siren. It's Hannah Fearman. Do you remember VHS? Remember the amateur night short where the girl, the quiet girl, kept saying "I like you"? Well, congratulations, you've seen a condensed version of this origin story, because that's basically what it is. She's like a succubus that flies and shit like that and everything, and that's really essentially what the movie boils down to. Um, the main guy, the guy that's going to get married, he loves his soon-to-be wife, but he is entranced by Lilith, and he decides to free her because he had a really good time as she sung to him, and a whole bunch of weird shit happens, and yeah, this movie isn't really particularly good. There's also a guy that oversees this whole house that can take memories from people, and that's really all he wants. He wants the best memories of their mothers, which is really really odd. But he's also keeping Lilith in jail, so to speak. He's keeping her locked down because if she gets freed, oh yeah, she gets unhinged and then decides to kill everybody. And that's pretty much what happens. This guy frees her, and then she starts killing. She even says the "I like you" line. So, really, there is not a lot to this. Every character makes a lot of bad decisions. You don't have any attachment to any of these characters at all. It's not anything good. You don't have any sympathy for anybody. You don't have any sympathy for the main guy because it's pretty goddamn obvious that this guy is just a fucking idiot for going out with his friends. And it's like, I understand that bad decisions are horror movie 101, and without them, pretty much 99% of the horror movies would not exist. But with this, it's like most of the special effect budget went to, like, making Hannah Fearman's character, like, with the split down her face and stuff like that, and the wing effects, her flying around and stuff like that. And the gore effects are okay. The makeup effects weren't all that bad, but eventually they try to trap her. That doesn't work. He sets her free, and she kisses him and then leaves. So okay, even though she's bonded to him, she decides to leave. And then sometime later he's celebrating his anniversary with his wife, and then Lil shows up. And instead of killing his wife, he says, "No, I'll go with you. Spare her." And then they leave. That's pretty much the end of the movie right there. I just saved you about, I'd say, 80 minutes of your life that you'll never get back. I will say that this is not the worst thing I've seen, but it is pretty goddamn short. It's not short enough, and it's also pretty goddamn shit. And the problem with this movie, it feels so much like a college film project. It feels just like so goddamn thrown together. It's also from Chiller Films. Remember Chiller? Remember them? The subdivision of Sci-Fi. Now, like Chiller, they actually had some pretty good stuff. This was not one of them. Now let's move on to The Witch Files. Okay, so you got The Craft. Take everything good about The Craft, throw it out, and then throw the worst parts of The Craft in a blender. There was nothing really wrong with The Craft, but if you take the budget, the character work, and everything all out of it, what you are left with is a generic witchcraftian, made for TV, made for cable horror movie with some of the most annoying goddamn characters on the face of this planet. And I want to say right now, with this, any of the other movies that I talk about, I don't blame the actors. They're just doing what they can with the material they have, but it's, oh boy. Not only is it like one of the most generic and painfully drawn out movies, despite the fact this movie is only like 80 minutes, 80, 85 minutes tops, it's found footage. This girl's like filming this documentary thing about why detention's important and about school and stuff like that. And sure, the girls are typical girls, typical high school girls. You got the goth, the loudmouth, the one friend that's slightly overweight that has confidence issues but has a boyfriend. You have the nerdy girl. You have all this stuff. So you got the characters of the craft just with all the charisma sucked out of them. These girls meet this one this one gothy girl named Jules, and they decide to participate in some witchy stuff because they see her do something like get them out of detention by making a fire alarm go off. So clearly she's a witch, and they could learn so much from her. And then they do seances and rituals and stuff like that, and they suddenly can get what they want. Any material goods, cars, clothes, purses, this kind of stuff. They convince people that they have the money and that they paid, but they didn't. And then it comes back to bite them because all of them are suddenly losing, something about them. The one girl's losing her eyesight. Another is, rotting her teeth. One has memory issues. One can't hear. And there's a lot of stuff going on here. But who could be behind this? Well, it's one of one characters. It's obviously the goth girl, Jules. Because it turns out that she has this attachment to the city, to this town, and that she is a witch of like 300-something years old in this old story that was told. And she is somebody that has been stealing the youth of various people, coming back as a high school student to steal the youth of a few people she friends to stay young. And there's tons of victims all over the goddamn town and everything. People she's killed throughout centuries. That's basically it. The acting is atrocious. The acting is so goddamn atrocious. It's just fucking ridiculous. It doesn't even feel like a first draft. It literally feels like they just threw this thing totally together and had nothing. They had nothing, so they just said, hey, fill time by just doing the found footage stuff and the shaky cam stuff, which sometimes found footage can actually work. It doesn't work here. And then one girl that doesn't want to give her powers can shoot lightning from her hands. Like the Emperor. It's like, so these special effects would barely have passed for 1995. And again, the crew may have done the best they could, but it was just really, really bad. They get in a prom fight, or a stupid prom fight and stuff like that. And they finally get her in a ritual, Jules, and they make her age and then fade away and stuff like that by calling out to her victims to kill her somehow. And then everything is fine. Or is it? You hear Jules, chanting and stuff like that. And oh my God, she could still be alive. Whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's shit. By the way, both those movies get Fs. I mean, for God's sakes, how could I not give those movies Fs? Then we move on to the Golem. So, we got this weird ritualistic thing where this creature is shrouded in darkness, and these Jewish guys in this in this church, I forget what they called it in 1600s, are trying to stop them, or they're trying to stop this creature and everything. And this one girl sees it, grabs the glass shard, and ends up cutting her hand, and then everybody's heads explode except the girl, because this golem, this creature, is pissed. Then we go to Lithuania in 1673. And there's a redheaded woman named Hannah who's learning Hebrew and reads a book called the Kabbalah. I'm not going to lie to you, my knowledge of anything Hebrew is not really all that good, so I apologize to any Jewish people that watch this that get offended. Do not take what I'm saying as offensive. I actually think they tried their best to honor all this stuff, but again, I'm not really all that familiar with the Jewish faith, so I do apologize for that. She then studies it, and then this plague is returning. There is this, there are these people called the Gentiles that are, that are outside of the city, that are or outside the town. They're in their own area, but they're plagued. And one brings their daughter to the village and breaks up this wedding and says, "You must cure my daughter, or otherwise you will be killed." Okay, cool. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Hannah suggests summoning a golem to protect them. Oh, and then it turns out that her sister lost a child, and then also Hannah and her husband lost a child 7-something years ago. And there's this whole thing about 7 years of bad, and then suddenly you can have 7 years of good. Oh, and husbands can just leave their wives after 7 years if they want to. Okay, weird. I don't know why that was happening. I definitely hope that doesn't start happening now. But anyway, so she creates a golem. And everything seems, everything's whatever. She suddenly is outside of town and was warned. Everybody was warned. Go outside of town and you are hung. You are killed. And these two, crazy guys try to hang her. Then they get killed. And then the golem saves her. And the quote here is, the golem must only be used for protection and it can evolve. And then a bond is, formed between Hannah and this golem because it's like her son. And then the killings start. And then this mutiny goes on, between these two, or it's not mutiny so much, but this fight back of these villagers and, these Gentiles. And then the daughter ends up being fine, ends up being cured somehow. Weird. After the golem almost decides to dispatch a whole bunch of people. Villagers are grateful, but then the golem gets jealous of how the husband and Hannah interact. So, oh no, it's going to start causing a whole bunch of things. Then the ritual happens to get rid of the golem, but he's attached to Hannah, so she starts to feel this pain. And then these Gentiles come back and burn down the village and stuff like that. But then, and during how she was able to do this, by the way, was she wrote down some letters from this one, on a scroll, rolled it up and put it in the dirt in the mouth of the golem as it was being formed. And she's got to remove that, and then that gets rid of the golem curse. Well, that's what she ends up doing. But then the plague girl picks up the scroll and, oh no, could she create a golem and then fade to black. That's essentially it. This movie gets a D because at least it had nice cinematography. It actually looked pretty good. The acting wasn't terrible, but it was pretty generic. Now we move on to head count. How was head count? Shit. Kinda. It had a good moment. It had a good moment or two, but it's this was just below Golem. It was still better than the other two. It was better than Siren and the Witch Files, because you have something called the Hizji, and it's a vengeful thing. 5 times its name, you never sing, with skin pale white and eyes of green. It's something you've already seen. Basically, it can take the form of somebody you are seeing all the time. So it's like John Carpenter's The Thing, only with everything sucked out of it. Look, when you got a bunch of teens that are nondescript, they're just the most basic characters taking a bunch of drugs, drinking while out in a desert villa, and you're trying to fill time for almost 90 goddamn minutes, you don't really have a whole lot of material here. I will say this, the creature does focus on things of 5, and it has some cool atmospheric shots, but every character just isn't all that good. It they're not. They're just painfully generic. Everybody's like, party, no, it's fine, this kind of stuff. And then this one character, Zoe, the main character, Evan, instantly falls for. He's going to go hang out with his brother for the weekend. They're out hiking. He sees this group of people. She's flirty with him. He's flirty with her. And boom, they're sleeping together by the end of the first night. Well, we've all been there, because then we all summon something. The Hizji, which does some violent things and makes people hallucinate, or it just could be the drugs and everything, and kills people in groups of 5. And then this research scene happens, and it's pretty obvious who this creature has taken the form of. Zoe, I believe Zoe is, they say Zoe or Zoe, it just, I guess, depends on the character, but she had hurt her ankle doing a fall suddenly, just stepping off of a cliff. One fall, and then basically we hear rattling sounds, we hear a whole bunch of stuff. We have more drugs and alcohol being taken, because why the fuck not? And some go out on the trip, but oh wait, there's 5 people back at the house, and after this research scene, Evan's like, we got to get back there, and then everything's fucked up. Everything's ritualistically thrown around or up in groups of 5 on the ceiling. Cups are all turned over evenly. It actually was a pretty good way of creating something spoopy. The creature does look terrible, though. Once they finally reveal the creature and they just show glimpses, it's very, very cheap. Then again, they might not have much of a budget to work with. And then everybody dies. The end. Oh no, but suddenly Evan escapes. Oh, but he can't escape because there's this blood trail thing that's blocking it off, and he's caught in some weird dimension thing, and then it turns out that the creature possesses him and then goes off with the brother and stuff like that. And scene, that's the end of that. Yeah, none of these are very good. Again, the Golem and head count were, I guess, again, dizzying heights of okay. Head count gets a D. It had a little bit of decent stuff, but really were a lot of dumb characters. So that's it, folks. I got more reviews lined up here, and I hope you guys tune in for them. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.